What up? What up? Welcome to Go Lead Everything. On today's show, we have a true inspiration. This badass is an award-winning keynote speaker, business coach, executive coach, corporate trainer, podcast of the year recipient, international best-selling author. And we had the opportunity to participate in one of Tony Watley's 365 Driven Entrepreneurs Clubhouse panels one time, and got to tag team some money mindset in response to a question. And when I heard this guy talk, I just knew that he had a ton of value to bring the GLE network. I've been thinking about doing this for a long time, and I'm thrilled to finally have Daniel Gomez on the show today. And he's here to inspire. Welcome to GLE.
What's
Daniel.
up, Phil Swanson, man? It's an honor to be here with your GLE community, brother. I'll tell you what, I'm pumped. I drank an extra Monster just for you. That way I won't run out of gas, man. I said, boom, baby, come on, let's bring it.
There you go.
So,
you got to pump up, man. You got to pump up.
I tell you what, you got to show up to blow up. Most people show up on podcasts and they don't even bring energy, man. You got to bring the energy. You got to.
Well, I wasn't, we were learning earlier from our buddy Tony, his advice on getting energy on podcasts and speaking. He's good at that sort of stuff. But I knew with Daniel coming on, I wouldn't have an issue bringing the energy.
No, man. I tell you what, people don't realize this, right? No matter what you're doing, you're always selling yourself. We're always selling ourselves. And it surprises me when people say, well, I don't want to be salesy. I'm like, well, if you didn't get that job, maybe because you didn't sell yourself good enough. Maybe that's a subconscious, right? That's that barrier 100%. That you have there. It's 100%. Like people are buying Daniel. People are buying Phil every day. People are buying you. And right. Obviously you bought me because I'm on your podcast. If not, you wouldn't have invited me. But right. I say that in all humility, because when you really think about it, 24/7, we're selling ourselves.
Right.
And what product are you putting right there in the primary real estate? What are you allowing? Right. Just think about it this way. You live in Houston. You're going down I-10 corridor, Interstate 10. There's thousands of billboards between San Antonio and Houston. Mm-hmm. What billboard are you putting forth every day for people to see?
Yeah. I would even go, Daniel, as far as saying that, you're either selling yourself or someone else is selling you. Because if you don't sell yourself and put a tag on your worth, then someone else is going to put a tag on it for you. And you're going to start believing what all they think, right?
Yeah. It's like the saying, I do that in my training because I do a lot of sales trainings for corporations. It's the person with the most certainty wins. Somebody always gets sold, right? The person with the most certainty, with the most confidence is going to win a negotiation. Mm-hmm. And so many times we don't believe in ourselves the way we should. We undervalue ourselves. And it's part of our brand. Think about this. If your brand, think if we were going to think if we were
we keep it real with real Daniel Gomez.
Yeah. think if we were going to Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom's. Well, we ask them, well, guess what? I saw this over here at Walmart. They'd probably laugh at us and throw us out, right? Because that's the value of their brand. Mm-hmm. Well, I would ask your audience, as your listeners, to say, well, really, what is the value of your brand? Mm-hmm. What is the value of your brand? Great. That's what they're buying. That's what you're portraying.
Yeah, 100%, Daniel. Hey, before we get too deep, I want give us the 1,000-foot view of the Daniel Gomez story. How did you get to be the keynote speaker you are today?
Well, it wasn't by choice. And I say that with all, right? My wife was diagnosed with breast cancer 4 years ago, man. And it just really, I learned real quick. It didn't matter how much success I've had in business on my own, how much money I had in the bank, Rolexes, Corvettes, Harleys, you name it, I've had it. I was put in a situation where my money couldn't save me. And my title couldn't save me. To say my prominence could have saved me. But the thing is, I didn't realize how big-headed I got. I was pretty arrogant, to be honest with you. Because I did run a big organization. People did cater to me, the vendors, and it's just sometimes you don't see it. It's like gaining weight, right? One day you put on your pants, you're like, oh, crap, what happened? They don't fit. And that's the same thing that happened to me. And I think when I was put in that situation when my wife called me at home, at work, and I couldn't understand what she was saying, and all I heard was the words that said breast cancer as they came through, I was like, shit, like I had that deer headlight look for the first time in a very long time. Mm-hmm. And man, I went home and she made a decision to have a double mastectomy. Then she got depressed on me. And then one day she just got really depressed on me and I had to make a decision. I told my boss I'm not going to make it. And they were, I mean, they were cool, right? To say that they were butt heads about it. They were good. But I think what people don't understand is that women or anybody that goes through the journey of this, right? When you have the emotional part's harder than the physical part. Mm-hmm. I think if a male was to lose his testicle or something was to happen, it's like the physical part's going to be healed, but dealing with it. So my wife was dealing with it and she was changing blouses every 3 or 4 times a day. So I made a decision to resign, man. And from that resigning, I was home. And this is the beautiful part is I looked in the mirror one day and I didn't like who I was, Phil. And that's where the journey began. That's why I'm here in front of you today. Wow, and God gave me an idea that I was crazy enough to believe. He says, I want you to be a motivational speaker. And I just told my wife and she said, you're crazy. Because I would go speak to kids, right? I would go give out these awards with Chevrolet. Chevrolet would give out these awards and the owner didn't want to go to the dealership. So I was the face of the dealership. Yeah. I would do some of the commercials. And so it was okay. And I don't know if I had to do it again, I don't know if I'd do it again, man, to be honest.
When you say God spoke to you, what do you mean by that? Because I always am curious what people mean when they say God spoke to them.
Well, I opened up my tie rack, right? Because I had my ties and I was going for an interview. Uh-huh. And I had found this old email there that was from like probably 3 or 4 years prior. Uh-huh. And as I opened up this email, I was just reading it and it was like, who is this car guy? And I was like, oh crap, what did I do, right? The counselor sent it to me. A mother sent it to the counselor. Who is this car guy? EJ is running through the house, yelling and screaming. He puts in the Chevrolet cap and he yells even louder. I'm like, oh, man, she's mad. And then it says, tell him I said thank you. EJ has never been so happy and so confident in his life. He tells himself he loves himself. He believes himself. Mm. So I showed up at this award ceremony, gave out this award. Principal goes, you have something to say, sir? I was like, nope, I don't. I didn't. Went back and sat down, man. Next thing you know, I'm there and I just felt a prompting in my heart. You just talked about attitude. Talk about attitude. 10 minutes later, I told her, I think I can say a couple of words. Really? I had 300 students yelling and screaming, I'm a winner, I'm a champion, I love myself. And when I read that email that day, when I was getting ready to go for an interview, look for a job after my wife had her surgeries, I just read it and I just started crying, man. And wow, it's like when I read it, the words just were magnified and God says, that's what I want you to do. I want you to go motivate people and speak.
That's awesome, brother.
You ever read something on the words? You ever read something on the word just come off the page?
Yeah, I was going to mention, like, for me, before we go into this, y'all got to go follow Daniel Gomez, DanielGomezGlobal.com. Go check him out if you haven't done it already. DanielGomezGlobal.com. And go follow him on all the socials. He's on all the major socials, all that. Got great content. I've looked through some of his posts. I love his quotes, and we'll talk about those here in a minute. But I was going to say, related to that point, in my life, Daniel, it feels like big decisions aren't always easy. God doesn't make them easy for me, but he almost always makes them obvious. Yeah. It's almost always pretty clear what the decision should be. I don't know. Is it different for you?
I think as human beings, we gravitate towards the familiar. So if I had to drop a word of wisdom to start off this amazing episode is, I want to encourage the GLE community to get familiar with the unfamiliar. Write that down. Get familiar with the unfamiliar. And when you start getting familiar with the unfamiliar and you start giving yourself new experiences every week and try something new, maybe for you, it's just going out and to a new restaurant out of your comfort zone. And maybe it's a higher scale restaurant, or maybe it's going out and just really doing something you've never done. Maybe going out to a park, whatever it is, just give yourself a new experience. Get familiar with the unfamiliar. I think when you do that, it really helps you to make these decisions easier when they're really a big decision in life. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I would say is never make a decision at night. Always wait till the next day, because by the time 5, 6 o'clock runs around, you're already brain fried. You're already tired. You already used up all your good. You're right. You used up all your good decisions. If you think about Steve Jobs always wore black because it was easy, less decisions to use throughout the morning. Just wait till the following morning. When you're making a big decision, just wait till the following day and give yourself that clear head, because you can make better decisions when you're well rested.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be my advice to your audience. But really, I think what we need to do is get familiar with the unfamiliar. It makes those big decisions easier.
That's great advice. I've always been a night owl, Daniel. And I can remember, I'm remembering back, there's probably a number of times I could have used that advice in my past. Just thinking about it. I won't go into details.
Yeah, but think about it, right? We're so eager because whatever the scenario may be, and
100%, man. It's
just like, man, go to bed and take a Tylenol PM and think about it in the morning. You'll feel better. Mm-hmm. You'll be rested, and at least you didn't make a rash decision that you're going to really regret. Because I can tell you in my youth, in my young leadership days, I made something that I'll be like, why did I do that? Mm-hmm. Right? Somebody bucks up to you, or you're like, you know what? Get the heck out of the leadership, right?
Right. I'm reminded of the scripture, don't let the sun go down on your anger.
Yeah.
And I think that your philosophy might be related to that, just from a philosophical perspective. I want to go back to identity, because you were talking about your wife and your experience with, what she went through with her mastectomy. And, you compared it to a guy losing his balls, right? Like,
and I say that because my brother went through that. I remember when my brother, he had cancer, testicle cancer. Sure. I mean, it happens to men, right? And it's a reality that I lived through with my brother. And
yeah,
it brings down your confidence.
Mm-hmm. I can kind of relate, just from being my example in my life as an athlete. I was always a big, I'm like 6'3", 240. I was always one of the strongest guys, weight room guy, lifting heavy weight. And then I had a back injury, and now I can't, I literally physically can't lift. I see like Tony all the time deadlifting 500 pounds. Like, I would love to get back, lift heavy weight like that. I just physically am unable, and would hurt myself. And it's like an identity thing, right? It kind of bothers you. Talk for our audience about identity. Where do you think identity comes from?
Well, I think it goes back to it's what we're familiar with. That's how so this is what happens in reference to identity. We get a new idea, but our old identity doesn't receive it. If you do receive it, well, then that's the first stage, right? You receive your new identity. Daniel, you're going to be a motivational speaker. Okay, I'm crazy enough to believe it. Well, then from receiving it, you start to embrace it. You start moving towards actually taking some action steps towards that. So as you embrace it, you go to a John Maxwell conference to go get JMT certified, you embrace it. And I think that's where many entrepreneurs mess up, because at that moment, right, you go from the old identity, you're transforming into the new identity. Mm-hmm. Think of a caterpillar. Caterpillar is crawling, dirty little guy in the dirt on the bottom. He's doing it, right? That's the old Daniel.
Not all dirty, Daniel.
Well, I know, but I'm trying to be a good storyteller here.
You are, man. I'm eating it up, man. You got me. I could just let you talk the whole time, so I have to kind of jump in.
But then you get the cocoon, right? You get in the cocoon, and that's where the caterpillar, it has to be in the cocoon before it can fly. Mm-hmm. So the caterpillar is the idea, you receive it. Then the cocoon is you embraced it, right? And in the embracing, that's where most people rubber back bad. They go backwards to the caterpillar because it's dark, mm-hmm. It's cold. You're by yourself. Mm-hmm. Me, I was a car dog in the car world, and I didn't want to gravitate towards that. So as I was in the cocoon, dude, I remember crying. I did a quote like 3 years ago. I said, man, you're not a real entrepreneur till you're in the bathroom crying by yourself, and you're 99.9% sure you're going to quit, Phil, but you don't. Mm-hmm. And that was a pivotal moment, because I was having success. I was making money as an entrepreneur, but I was still in the cocoon because I missed my old life. I missed what I was familiar with. I missed it.
Right.
And I think that's where most entrepreneurs' businesses fail, because they never make that breakthrough.
Right.
So they never taste that first victory. They never taste that first big win. Mm-hmm. Because it's an identity issue, because they're not embodying, right? So the last stage is you embody becoming that butterfly.
Wow.
I embodied being a motivational speaker. And it's like you ask somebody, well, what do you do? Think about it. Next time you go to a networking event, you have somebody new they don't know what to say because they haven't embodied it yet. It's like, man, right. To me, like, and I'm going to take a step of faith here. I'm going to come across confident because this is what God put in my heart. Like I said, you know what? I heard something the other day during Christmas. I said, why not? Why not? Daniel Gomez inspires the number one motivational speaker in the world. Why not? But I'm crazy enough to believe it. I'm embodying it. So that sign behind me, that's a sticker shock. I have another poster that I'm going to make. I'm going to send it to my graphic guy, my sign guy, and it's going to say number one motivational speaker in the world, Daniel Gomez inspires. I'm going to make it. I'm going to declare it because what we focus on expands. So I'm going to embody that identity.
Yeah.
Because there's people out there that Tony Robbins can't reach. There's people out there that Eric E.T. can't reach, but Daniel Gomez can because I'm a Hispanic, I'm a Mexican, and there's a lot of Latinos, Hispanics out there that need to hear that voice of hope that maybe if I can inspire them a little bit more, that'll be a tipping point for their life for the better.
So much. I love the analogy with being alone in a dark, cold cocoon. Because I feel like leaders, for the folks that are, really leadership focused, listening to GLE, I feel like this entrepreneur parallel and so many great, entrepreneurs are great leaders, but that concept of being alone in a room is a metaphor that I've thought a lot about because I really feel strongly that, not only leaders have followers, but when leaders start, they don't have followers. They're just taking action as an example. And then once people see that and see that they're going to stand and do it alone in that dark cocoon, whether they have followers or not, then the followers start believing and start to follow, right? Like it always starts alone in that dark cocoon. And you're right. It's tough mentally to go through that.
Well, let me ask you this. What happens when you let the butterfly out too soon? What happens if we cut the cocoon and let the butterfly out?
I think it might not look as pretty.
It dies, right? What gives the butterfly the strength is it breaks out of the cocoon, the wings. But so many young leaders, right? They want to come out, they want to be that bigger leader, and they're not ready for it because they haven't broken through the cocoon. They haven't had the strength. They don't have the character. They don't have the strength, and they don't have the integrity, right? They don't have the integrity. And what I mean by integrity, not moral integrity, but the integrity of a foundation, the integrity of if I get tempted, the integrity of am I going to be ethical, the integrity, am I going to put my bias aside? I think so many times we have unconscious bias and we don't even realize it, but we're so eager to get out of that cocoon and we're not ready. And that's why you see so many people, right? A good example of that is somebody who wins a lottery. They have unearned wealth and they don't have the character. They don't have the integrity. Within 2 years, they're in worse condition than before they won the lottery. Why? Because they don't have the integrity to handle millions. It's like like what Jim Rome said, right? If you get $1 million, you best become a millionaire. Because if not, you're going to lose it. And that's why people that inherit hundreds of thousands or millions, they lose it because they don't have the integrity. They don't have, right? They don't have the leadership qualities and finances to handle that level of success.
Right. Daniel Gomez inspires. You're inspiring me, brother.
Yeah,
I love it, man. I love it.
It's the monster.
I think I resemble as a young leader. I think I've resembled that remark before as and I think maybe high achievers tend to, they want to move quick. They want to accomplish things. And maybe that's a trend you probably see a lot in executive coaching, perhaps. I don't know. Do you see that often in your executive coaching?
Yeah, because there's a lot of insecure leaders. There's a lot of insecurities. I think one thing that I always encourage people to do is I ask them, have you fulfilled your full level yet? They're like, well, what do you mean? The level you're on, have you tapped it out? Are you at capacity? Have you done everything possibly to make this level of your leadership role great? Have you helped everybody you can? Mm-hmm. And when I really put them in the corner and ask them that, right? They say no. I was like, well, then why are you here to go to the next level? What if Daniel needs you in the corner and you're too busy to be selfish to go to the next level? Daniel needs your help. What if Phil needs your help? Mm-hmm. And so many times we're so eager to go to the next level in leadership, in business, and in life. And we're still just imagine we're playing Donkey Kong and we're still at level 3 and you can't go from level 3 to level 10. You got to learn, you got to grow. You got to have the experience. And so many times we want to be at the king of the mountain, and it just doesn't work that way.
Did you play Donkey Kong, Daniel?
I played Donkey Kong Jr.
Man, that Donkey Kong reference threw me off, brother.
Yeah.
I love Donkey Kong. I used to have my big gray Game Boy with the little purple buttons, and I would play that thing all day. Donkey Kong. I was a Donkey Kong Land 2 guy. Yeah, Donkey Kong Land 2, man.
But it's just that I would tell your audiences, like, ask yourself this question, write this question down. Have you done everything possible at the level of life, of leadership, of business that you're at? Because if you haven't, then there's that sometimes we don't reflect, and there's ingratitude in there. And if you're not grateful for what you have, gratitude is the key for promotion. Gratitude is the key for more. Mm-hmm. So if you overlook it, you're not being grateful for what you have.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that, Daniel. Y'all, if y'all haven't done it already, go check out danielgomezglobal.com. He's also got a book, You Were Born to Fly. He's a best-selling author. You got to check out his book, You Were Born to Fly. What was it like?
Yeah, right here. Go to Amazon and get it. I'll give myself a little plug. Go to Amazon and get
check it out, man.
Paperback and Kindle. But
so what was it like in your journey becoming that keynote speaker, and then, ultimately writing the book and all that? Give us kind of what kind of steps does it take to become a keynote speaker?
I think for me, when I started off, I had it wrong. I'll be honest with you, right? I wanted to speak to, it wasn't about the audience when I first started. And I think when I really, really learned from one of my mentors that said, Daniel, you're good. You have a natural talent. You're raw, but your next level is really seeing the audience as a star of the show. And I think when he told me that, I really took it to heart. And something that we teach at our Sticker Shock Speaking Academy is really audience engagement. And for myself, I take myself off I'm not one of those speakers that stays on stage. I kind of bounce off the stage, and I kind of get in people's faces and right. We do some fun stuff with them in our corporate trainings or the association conference, but people respond to it.
Change their state a little bit.
Yeah. Change their state and have fun. And like one thing that I do is I'll say like, hey, who here was wondering what I'm going to say, right? Raise your hand. And they're like, me, right? And I'm like, well, guess what? Me too. I didn't know what I was going to say today. And they started laughing, and you just got to be human. Sometimes people just need to see that you're human.
Yeah.
And then I do another thing with Starbucks, right? Like, right, who here wanted to go to Starbucks, but they said if they were late, they were going to let you into the conference. They're like, me. I'm like, well, great. Here's Starbucks, right? So I'll give them a $5 gift card of Starbucks. Then I'll go to Phil. I'll say, Phil, now don't go tell Ruby now that your gift card's $20. She only got a $5 one, and everybody will start cracking up. So it's really just having fun with the audience is what makes a keynote speaker. I think so many people take it seriously. They want to be proper, and I think you can be too proper, to be honest with you. And I think when I learned to have fun, I'll never forget there was a conference where we were just having fun, being silly. And man, we sold like 150 books. I think we made almost over $1,000 in book sales. And I wasn't even prepared for it. And I was like, man, it was a good bonus apart from the honorarium. So I just learned at that moment, it's not about Daniel Gomez, the star. Right. That makes a great keynote speaker. Wow. I think that's one thing that I want your audience to take away is that.
I love that, Daniel. I absolutely love that. I needed to hear that. I'm sure some of our audience did too. I think my level of seriousness has actually been a hindrance maybe for me. And it's something I consciously work on now is, and it seems it's probably stupid to people, but like I do have fun. And when I got married, my wife told me, she's like, I would never have guessed you were like this until, I got closer to you, as we were dating and engaged and ultimately married. But, I kind of had a persona, like my corporate persona. And it's been tough for me to kind of get comfortable in my shoes enough to kind of tear down that. I don't know why or how or what created that wall or a need for it in my mind. But for some reason, I kind of always have kind of had my guard up around certain people. And I don't really let the walls down around so many people to kind of let loose and have fun like that. But I see the need to, and I see how it's kind of hindering my development and being able to impact people. So it's something I've been focused on. Do you have any tips other than just, stop worrying what other people think?
Yeah, man. Just I think it's part of just manhood. It's just part of the man, right? I think, when I was younger, I was a, I was a Harley guy, right? And I relate to what you said, man. I would go somewhere and I'd be like, I wouldn't let nobody check me, bro.
Yeah,
like,
you want to look cool, right?
I didn't care. I didn't care if you were 6'2", 240 pounds. I'd be like, what you look? You got a problem? I mean, I'd be like, you know what? It's just like, I had no fear in me. I just really didn't.
Yeah.
And like, I did, like, people were like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, like, well, dude, like, right. It's a ship that I had on my shoulder and it wasn't good. Right. But I learned that, cause I had anger towards my dad.
Yeah.
After I forgive him, it went away. But I think I was kind of me, right? I would be like, so
I think you're hitting on something that deep anger.
Like your chest pops out, right? You're like, you're right. Somebody walks in and, well, guess what? Like, I'm not going to punk out. I'm not going to shrink back. And I think that was my demeanor. So when I came into business, right, I had to learn not to do that because I'd be like, because I would want to do that in networking events or just events. And I think it's just really just forgiving my dad. And then after you do that, you just really got to let the kid out and you just have fun. I think when you let the kid out in you and you just have fun, there's no need to compete with other people. And it's not easy, right? Because you want everybody to love you and you want to love everybody. But the reality is that in business, people that support you, right? I think if I look back of all the people that have supported me since I started, we'll just say there was 100, maybe 10 have come with me the whole journey. Because then people start seeing the success that you've had. And then they start seeing you buy a new home and, and now he thinks he's good. And, then you see him buy a new car for his wife and then a Porsche and then doing more successes. And the people that you thought were going to support you through the journey, it hurts, right? So I can see how people can get bitter and resentment. And I had to really work at letting some of those people that have, I don't want to say backstabbed me, but I guess just talk shit, right? Talk smack. And it's just like, I've learned it's their issue, not my issue. Right. And like when we bought this house that we're in right now, it's our dream house. And the first thing my wife said is, don't post any pictures. I'm like, why? It's a gift from God. Like God bless us with this house. Right. Yeah. Like celebrate it. And I said, we're going to post it, but we're not going to post it from an egotistic point. It's like, I'm grateful. Right. I mean, come on, I'm a kid from the South Side. I've been wanting, the odds were against me to come out of there and then to have a horseshoe driveway and to have my jacuzzi in the back. Like, why wouldn't I celebrate that? So it's just really, learning to celebrate myself and not really care, not in a bad way, but not really care what people are going to say, because people that ain't doing anything, they're always going to have an opinion. And I think I've really learned that here in 2021 because we had tremendous success and it's God's blessings, man. When I'm not going to apologize for me serving God and my success, my wealth is a consequence of serving God.
I love Grant Cardone, I think is the one who I heard say this, but he said, I've never had anyone more successful than me criticize me. And I thought that was just kind of such interesting perspective. Or even like, the president of the United States, right? Whether or not we have fair elections is up for debate, but half the country doesn't like him, right? And the other half does, right? No matter which president it is. So, if half the people are going to hate you anyway, no matter how good you are, what are you worried about? Right.
So I would say that. I would say just really let the kid in you come out. Just have fun, right? I think when we were kids, we'd play football in the front. It didn't matter who you were. We just said, come on, let's play touch football. And we could play football till it got dark and you were at home all sweaty and stinky and it didn't matter. I think you got to let that side of you out and just enjoy life. Cause I think in men, and I think in all people, we get some reason we have this crazy idea that this is a practice life. And I think for me, the light came on 4 years ago with my wife. I was like, shit, I'm going to lose my wife. Like I cried, man. Like I haven't cried more in my whole life than I did these past 4 years. But when I said, like, there's no practice life. Like this is your life. Yeah. You don't get a redo. You don't get a rerun. You don't get like, this is it. Like people think I'll fix my problem. Like, no, like this is like, when you're gone, you're gone. Like there's no practicing. This is your life. And I think when I approach that, I really take business differently. I take my relationships with my kids differently, with my wife, and just my life differently. Right. And I try to, sometimes you want to save for the future, but sometimes too, I believe you got to live for the day because you never know what's going to happen with what happened with my wife. And I think I found that balance. I used to always live for the future. Mm-hmm. And one day my wife goes, I've never asked you for nothing. My daughter wanted to go study abroad in Europe, in Paris. And I said, okay. She said, we need to send Ali to Europe. Mm-hmm. And it was like $25,000. And I was like, you're crazy. She goes, I never asked you for nothing. I said, okay. She goes, you know how you always say we're planning for the future? I said, yeah. She goes, well, this is a future we've been planning for 10 years ago. How could I argue with that? Let me say it again. I had been saving my whole life, right? But this time we're together like 18 years, 17 years. She goes, Daniel, today is a future we've been saving for 10 years. And I said, you're right. So I think for me now, it's finding that balance of when to spend, when to save. And of course, you want to save at least 10% of whatever you earn, right? Just not, and I don't believe in saving for a rainy day. I think it's the stupidest thing you could do because if you save for a rainy day, what are you going to attract to yourself? A rainy day, right?
Ding, ding.
So I save up for, I save up, right? I call it my freedom account. It's my freedom of choice account. I have freedom of the choice to do whatever I want to do in the future. So it just,
yeah, there you go.
It just works that way. And what do you have? You have more freedom. You have more fun.
Yeah. Let's talk money mindset. Cause when you talk about saving, I've actually like, I don't think of it as saving now. It's like, I know I am saving money, but I consider it an investment somehow, or like I'm putting that money away to multiply it at some point, or, do something with it that's going to create value to other people or myself, right? Whether it's my giving or whatnot. But I've kind of changed like everyone talks about saving, but I 100% agree. Like, there's this delicate balance, I think, between living outside your means and enjoying the fruits of your labor and what God's given you and blessing other people. And it's kind of a fine line, right?
Yeah, well, I think my new book coming out, it's scheduled to be released in the first quarter, right? It's The Makings of a Millionaire Mind. Oh, and we talk about that, right? And I think people are just poor-minded. We learn our relationship with money is because it's learned from our childhood through the words that we hear our parents say. If there's arguments at home, mm-hmm. then right, more than likely we're going to argue about money with our spouse. Mm-hmm. And then what was behavior, right? What behaviors were presented to you as a child? What did you learn? And I remember for me, we'd go to this store called Shoppers World, and I would be like, think about this. How many of us get to go to Foot Locker and say, Phil, I mean, right? I would say, oh, Dad, I want these shoes. My dad would say, no, son, get these. These shoes are $100 more. Why not get the most expensive shoes? My parents never said that. What did they always say? Get the ones that are on sale.
Yeah.
So we learned this and we're trained this way. Mm-hmm. And then when we come into life for ourselves, we're taught this behavior about money. Mm-hmm. And then we're taught to exchange dollars for hours. And then we're stuck at this lie that we believe that $10 an hour is a lot 20 years ago, then 20, and then 30. And if you think about it, even $50 an hour isn't a lot. Like we were talking about off camera. I got my first check for $300. I was like, wow, for an hours of coaching for 2 sessions. I was like, what? Like, I felt funny. I felt like it was out of my comfort zone, but now it's like, man, it's like, it's the normal now. But so I think more, I would say over 90% of people are poor-minded just because of the way our country's set up. It doesn't matter if I go speak in California and Florida, Texas. Mm-hmm. I spoke in Chicago, and I always say this, right? And we can have some fun with this for your team, right? For your audience, right? So I'm going to start it. I don't know you, right? We've never had a formal conversation. So just for the record, right? For point of reference. Yeah. So I'm going to start it. I want you to finish it. Money doesn't grow on
trees.
That's just the way it
is.
The early bird gets the
worm.
So how do you know the endings to all these things if I've never talked to you?
Because it's been programmed in me.
In all of us.
Yeah.
100%. It's at our core beliefs. So we're poor-minded by nature.
Money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
Except it's not. It's love of money.
Yeah.
That's the root. Right.
But the
Don't
thing
love
is,
anything more than me.
Yeah.
You love your life more than me. or your money more than me. But yeah, we're programmed, Daniel. I know, like from my growing up, I had no clue about buying a house, and I'm not meaning this negatively toward my parents in any way. I've had wonderful, godly parents that raised me in as a faithful Christian, and I'm thankful to them. And I've lived a fairly comfortable middle class white American life, like many do. But it's call it white privilege or whatever you're going to call it. But I've been very comfortable. Not rich, but not in need by any means. But like, I had no clue about money, brother. Like until I was late 20s, I literally, I remember saying this all the time. Like, why does anyone even pay attention to taxes? Everyone has to pay them. So just pay them and stop caring. Like, why do we even care about it? Like, I used to think that way.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think back at myself, like what it's just such an ignorant state of mind. And it actually, what it is it's what I find is most people who say they don't care about money actually spend most of their time trying to make money.
Yeah. Well, when people say money's not important, that's their defense because they're broke. I mean, let's just be honest, right? If somebody is going to say money is important, the likelihood of them being
how do you know you've never had money?
Right. And the thing is this, is that they've never had enough money to know whether money would be important or not important. And then the other thing that people say was money doesn't make you happy. Well, if you're going to be unhappy, I'd rather have money.
Sure.
Right. But I say this in all honesty, because once my relationship changed with money, when I really showed me that money allows me freedom, first of all, it gives you freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you choice.
Mm-hmm.
If my wife would have had breast cancer and I would have been broke, I wouldn't know what the hell I was going to do, to be honest with you. But the fact that we had built up some wealth and it was there, it's like, I'm grateful for that, because that gave me the confidence to step out in faith during the time that she was having 8 major surgeries through breast cancer, stage level 3.
Mm-hmm.
So money gave me peace of mind. Money gave me confidence. Money gives you the opportunity to contribute. I think the biggest thing is whenever I'm feeling down, right? We always give, in my house, we always give 10% to charity, to God, to church. That's my belief. And that's why I truly believe I'm blessed. Even when 2020 came, it's like, what you don't respect, you don't attract.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't respect money, you're not going to attract it. You deflect it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage your audience to say, right, really ask yourself this question: what is my relationship with money?
Yeah.
Because you know why most businesses don't make it, most small entrepreneurs? Because they don't respect it. If you see money as an evil, bad thing, and I don't need money, money's not important. Well, how the hell do you expect your business to survive and to grow?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Sure. And
if we were to say, right, if we say money's not important, what would happen to say right now if you wouldn't told your wife, you know what, honey, you're not important?
Yeah, she'd go away.
Bingo.
You nailed it, Daniel. Yeah, powerful money mindset. If you think about why you want the money, you can really, I always encourage people, you got to understand why you want the money. Is it to glorify Phil or Daniel? Or is it to give your family that God has put in your stead, in your charge? Is it to give them the best life possible while helping as many people as possible? And, it's why do you want the money? Right. And, I think that's where people can get confused. And you've absolutely hit the nail on the head that this country is, and just the way we're designed and educated, people's money mindset is broken, absolutely broken.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they don't teach it in school for whatever reason. And then when you come out of, like my son, like I told you before we started, he's a senior at Texas State University here up the road. And they go to these schools and right away they give you a credit card. And like they don't know, right? Maybe they've never been educated in that. And most of the kids that go there, maybe they haven't. We'll just say half of them have it. So they get this credit card for 500, 1,000.
Right.
They charge up. They don't have a job. Guess what? They don't pay it. So right off the bat, their credit score goes down. And then next thing you know, they abuse it and they start forming these bad habits. So they don't even have a respect. They don't have an understanding of it. Like, hey, you got a credit card. Don't max it out because it's going to bring down your credit score. Don't charge on it more than what you can't pay. And like I had this talk with my son. He does pretty good, but his score, he has a real good score. But I said it could be higher if you understand that. Don't be buying stuff just to buy stuff, because if you rack up your limit, it's like it's going to bring down your score. I said, so if you have the money, if you just imagine if you were to save at least 10% of your money aside from what you give, right? So this is what I live with as far as money mindset goes, is the first 10% goes to charity, whatever charity you're, maybe you don't go to church, but help somebody out, right? Homeless and needy, find a charity that you support. The first 10% goes to that. Second 10%, pay yourself. Most people don't pay themselves. You got to pay yourself. Like people, they pay everybody else, but them, pay yourself 10% and don't touch it. Even if you have to put it in a different bank account that you don't see, or have, if you're not, if you're an employee, hey, my wife's an employee, nothing wrong with that. Put 10% in an account that you don't get. And you're going to see that little by little, like, wow, how did I do all this? Like my wife, she just, God bless her with the new job. And she goes, hun, I said, well, how much did you have in your account? She had like 30 something $1,000 she wasn't even aware of, right? She knew it was growing. I'm like, man, that's good. But when you do that, 10% doesn't seem like a lot, right? Maybe 30, 40 bucks a paycheck, well, just as an example. But after months and years, it adds up, and you have something at least that makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
And then I would say that in the next 10%, right? Just save it for your freedom account, right? That's just freedom account, to where at the end of every month, you have this $100 but spend it. Don't just keep it there, spend it, because I think so many times the mistake I made is it's safe for tomorrow or safe for the future, but you don't ever really get to celebrate yourself today. Yeah. And you got to have some of those, you got to celebrate your wins. And I think so many times in life, we don't celebrate our wins. And I think that's one thing that after this happened to my wife, I'm like, man, life's too short. Like, celebrate it. And like just something as simple as buying yourself, she bought herself this little iPad case the other day. And it's like, cool, right? 12 bucks, 15 bucks, but it's just like not crazy spending money. Like there's a difference, right? Like what you said, not to spend money just to spend money, but to celebrate yourself in a reasonable amount. And I think that when you do that and you live off of, right, 60% of your income, that's a good place to start with money, and you'll attract more of it.
One of the great like purchase mindsets I got, you mentioned like buying shoes. So going back to that metaphor, I used to be, buying the cheap pairs of shoes too. And then somebody told me, hey, you're going to be on your feet more than just about anything else you do. If you're going to invest in any piece of clothing, invest in your shoes. And so like for a splurge purchase, right, you go get maybe a nicer pair of shoes than you would have or whatever. But it kind of got me thinking, instead of, oh, how much does this cost? It got me thinking about the value of the thing I'm buying and what it means to me, or how it brings value to my life. And so when I'm splurging now, right, it's funny now, like I splurged the other day and bought like a high def webcam for my podcast. Right. And I was like happy about it. I
was going to say, like, you look better today for some reason.
Yeah. And it's like, cool. It's a business expense too. So it's smart, but like, it's just one of those things. Once your perspective changes and you're not worried about how much everything costs, but worried about the value, worried about, how it benefits your life, how, you're celebrating a win that, met a goal in your life, or you saved up and met some financial goal. I love this money mindset. It's awesome, Daniel.
Yeah. Well, my new course is actually going to be, the new course that's going to come out. It's going to have to deal with, the book, the course. We're going to have live events around. It's going to be about the millionaire mindset. And it breaks my heart, because it really, it breaks my heart when people have so much potential, but they never go down into those deep reservoirs because they believe the lies that they've been taught their whole life. And when you really take off that story, you erase that story, you take off those, right? We'll just say here, like I do this corporate training where when you take off those poor man's perspective, right? You take off that poor man's perspective. But the thing is, you try to help people and dude, they fight you. They don't want to take it off. And when you take off that poor minded perspective, right? When you take it off, dude, like, why didn't I see this before?
Yeah.
And when you realize that money is not a bad thing, that wealthy people ain't greedy, that money is a great thing, and that wealthy people are generous. I mean, it's like, right, we can't help everybody in the world, but I'll tell you that our goal is to help people and wherever we can. Like just the other day, and I got a good example. My wife bought myself a new coat. And we were going to the gym this morning. It was freezing here in San Antonio. And I said, hey, you know what? Go get these jackets. She goes, what for? I said, I don't know. God put it in my heart. Somebody might need it. It's freezing outside, right? I don't need all these jackets. I'm never going to wear it. But how much clutter do we have in our closet that it could be a blessing for somebody else? Yeah. And they're nice jackets. It's just that my wife, right? My style in business has changed. So stuff that I wouldn't wear, right? I'm not going to wear it. And if it's in your closet for a year with the dust on the collar, more than likely you're not going to wear it. So, but it's just, it helps to be a blessing to the people around you, man. And I think money is a great thing, and it gives you the freedom, the confidence to be and do what God created us to be.
I love it. I want to hit one quote because you just reminded me of it. I pulled it off your Instagram. Stop loving the trash in your life more than the truth. And I think we've been talking all around that point, but I absolutely love that quote.
Yeah.
Love it, brother. You also, you made one other comment. One of the best things you can do in your life is stop watching trash TV.
Yes.
And so talk a little bit, we got a few minutes left here. Talk a little bit about pouring in and how important it is to pour good things to help build that good mindset. And, what's your, routine like for pouring in good content?
Well, that quote came because of my son. He came home, and this was, and actually it was a year ago, but we were just talking about it because it was the holidays again. And he came home last year and he was just like, Dad, I'm in a funk, because he's in sales. He works for one of the top car washes here in South Texas. And he's one of the top salesmen. He goes, yeah, I'm in a funk. And I was like, okay, right. I didn't say nothing because sometimes the coach wants to come out. So I just was Dad. I said, well, it'll get better, son, right? I love you. And then like he's here for that week, like I told you, and I noticed like day one, he's binge watching Netflix. Day two, he's binge watching another show. I said, hey man, I said, what's going on? He goes, nothing. I said, you must like Netflix, huh? You like that show? He goes, oh, it's a good show, Dad. I said, hey man, let me ask you something. He goes, what? I said, is it adding value to you? He goes, well, no, Dad, it's just a show. It's an innocent show. It's like, I didn't say it wasn't an innocent show. I'm just asking you, is it adding value to you? He goes, well, I just like to watch it. I said, is it helping your sales, you think? And by that time he was getting upset, right? I said, look, you made the comment that your sales ain't up. I said, why don't you maybe listen to a sales podcast? If you don't want to listen to me, listen to a sales podcast or go on YouTube and watch something that helps you with sales. So he got upset, went to his room and didn't say nothing. So he kind of shrugged it off, and the next day was Christmas, and it was good, right? So we didn't talk about it.
Sure.
So he called me about a week later after he left. He goes, Dad, I was mad at you. I said, I know you were. He goes, but thank you. I found this podcast and I like it. And I've been listening to it every morning, driving to school, driving to work. And it's helped me. My sales are back up. I said, good. So that's a great example of trash TV, right? It seems innocent on the outside. It's like candy. It's chocolate chip cookies look innocent, but they're not good for us. Right. So we binge watch these shows that look innocent, but they add no value to us. And then subconsciously they're affecting us without us even realizing it. And then next thing you know, our performance goes down. And so my question to your audience is what you're listening to, what you're reading, what you're watching, is it adding value to you? Another good example of that is a trash novel, right? If you're reading this novel that's not adding a book, right? There's good books and bad books the same way. So I think you really have to filter what you take in, right? Because what we take in is what we become, right? Trash in, trash out.
I love that.
So and the three things is this, right? What am I listening to audible? What am I watching my visuals?
Mm-hmm.
And then what environments am I putting myself into?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So those are the three things that are going to, you want to know what your future is going to be like, Phil? Your GLE community wants to know what's my future going to be like. I can tell you.
Yeah. What are you doing today?
It's hidden in your daily routine.
Mm-hmm. 100%, brother. That's so good. So good. Before the show, I was thinking about my preparation because I've had people ask me, man, you spend so much time preparing for those podcasts, and I really don't. And one of the things that, and I don't mean that in like a braggy way. I spend maybe 20, 30 minutes but the reason I think, because I was going to make a joke that inspiration doesn't come from preparation. And as I was thinking about it, what I realized is I think inspiration comes from meditation, and meditation comes from reflection, and reflection comes from perspective. And you only get perspective from your results. And those could be good or bad, right? Your failures. And you only get results from action, and you only take action based on what you know. Knowledge is worthless unless you act on it. And you only get knowledge if you have good habits that are going to put that good knowledge inside you. And you only have good habits if you're making good decisions and good choices, not watching crap TV and listening to the right sales podcast instead. And you're not going to make good decisions unless you have a purpose. And so, I encourage people until they get a clear purpose with what they want to accomplish. Maybe a guy like Daniel Gomez is going to inspire you to find your purpose and start doing some of those things that'll result in ultimately being inspired and having those good things pour out of you in your life. And so, it just comes natural, right, to you to speak well, right? Because you've studied it and meditated and prepared to the point where that you've become it. And as the audience is listening, I just encourage you, if you don't have a purpose, think about what your purpose is. Here at GLE, we want to arm people with the courage and the truth. We want to give you the truth and the courage to stand for it. And I know Daniel's one of those that's out there standing for truth. And I absolutely love it, brother. I'm so thrilled that you could make it on the show. And before you go,
can I add something to that?
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
Most people don't find a purpose, and this is a reason why. Because they undervalue who they are. So if they undervalue themselves, if they think they bring no value, then what purpose do I have? So I think I want your community to know this is that, you matter, right? Wow. You matter. You matter more than you realize. And the day you really start to value yourself and see that you bring more value, that the mistakes, the screw ups, the failures you've had, that it's not who you are. It's not your identity. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't affect your value. Because your value is this. Your value is that you're a child of God. Your value is that you're fearfully, wonderfully made. Mm-hmm. And your value is that you're forgiven. So get up and realize that when you see yourself as valuable, then the world will start seeing yourself as valuable. And when you see yourself as valuable, that's when you give yourself the opportunity to find your purpose in life. And that's where fulfillment comes in. And that's when, man, if you would have told me I'm doing what I'm doing, I'd be like, but I had to find myself valuable after all the screw ups I did as a father, as a leader, as a husband, man. And it's just, now it's like, I need to help men and women find their value, because people are more valuable than they realize, Phil. And that'll help them find their purpose.
I love it, brother. Wow. So good. Hey, before you go, I always ask our guests, not always, but most times I ask our guests this question. When I started this podcast, one of the things that really inspired me was the perspective of how cool it would be to see more than just a black and white photo of my great grandpa, right? How cool would it be if I had podcast after podcast after conversation with amazing entrepreneurs, successful executives, coaches, speakers, authors, of my, one of my relatives, my ancestors. And I could just watch hours and just soak up their mind and listen to what all they did and learn from them. I just thought it was such cool perspective. And so with that in mind and not knowing how many millions and billions of people down the road might end up seeing Daniel Gomez talking to old great grandpa Phil, what would you leave our audience with today?
So my last words for your podcast are this, is that in life, we have choices. And the thing is this, is that we all have the power to choose. When you stop tolerating the things that are hindering you, when you stop tolerating those little things that you're not happy with, when you stop tolerating the old you, is when you're going to start making the right choices. And maybe you're in a position where you want to do something. Your old life back there is not worth the new life up there. There's a future you in front of you, right? There's that 75-year-old version of Phil. There's that 75-year-old version of Daniel that's rooting us on. So just know that your labor is not in haste. You're going to be rewarded. And if you've never give up in life, you're guaranteed to win. And the beautiful thing about it is the odds are for you because you've made it this far. So just imagine if you made it this far, how much farther you can make it when you truly choose to be successful in life.
Wow. So good. So good, Daniel Gomez. Appreciate you coming on, brother. Y'all, if you're not following Daniel, go follow him, rewind, re-listen to all his wisdom from this episode. Absolutely amazing stuff. Go to danielgomezglobal.com. Check out everything he's doing. He's got the book. He's got You Were Born to Fly, new book coming out, The Makings of a Millionaire Mind. Going to have some courses related to that one too. So be on the lookout for that. When can we expect that one, Daniel?
Man, it'll be out for sure in March. I've been working on it and it's kind of my next level book. So I've been putting some more work into it. So I'm excited. I already started it. I'm pretty much halfway done. And my goal was by the end of February. So that's my goal, but it'll be available for sure by March.
Awesome. Be on the lookout for that, y'all. And y'all have a great rest of your week. Go lead everything.